Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and I am so happy to be here this week with all of you. Thank you so much for joining. If this is your first time, welcome. And for all of you who have come week after week, I so thank you from the bottom of my heart. So this week I have Rachael Webb. She is someone that works with creatives and entrepreneurs and helps them find clarity and courage in sharing their gifts authentically and profitably. So I really wanted her on the podcast because I just wanted to shine a little bit of a light to those of you who may be struggling at all with trying to find what your message is or your purpose, and trying to really get courageous with really stepping forth and fully owning who you are. So we talk a lot about how we can get clarity and how we can get courage. And I know for me, there was definitely a time when, even right before I was about to launch this podcast, that it was really kind of me coming out of my spiritual closet, so to speak. And I don't know, I really, there's definitely a part of me that, I'm this medical professional and educated woman, and how could you kind of blend that with moon circles and moon rituals? You either have one or the other. You're either like really woo-woo, or you're totally an intellectual person. And I'm not saying you can't have both, because I clearly do, but you really mostly see one or the other. Someone who is academically very strong sometimes may not be completely open to things like astrology and whatnot. I'm not saying 100% of the time, of course, but I love both worlds and I can integrate them beautifully, and I am very grounded in both worlds. So I wanted to come out of the spiritual closet because this is who I am. I very been trained very heavily, but there was also a side of me that a lot of people didn't know about, especially my patients. So it took a lot of courage for me to come out and to create this podcast and be really open about who I am and fully stepping forth and owning all of it. So I wanted to bring her on here because this is one of her gifts, and to shine a light on any of you who may be, finding it hard to really fully step into who you are and owning who you are. So let's see, what else did we talk about? How to decide between two really great offers. This has definitely come up in my life, where I've had to choose between two really great things, but it may be two really great things on paper, but not necessarily two really great things for you or for me. So we talk about how to distinguish which would be the best option. We also talk about, we dive a little bit deeper into, we dove a little bit deeper into how to gain more clarity and to really learn what lights you up and how she starts her day. We also talk about being able to create some boundaries, which I think is super important when it comes to business, your work life, your relationships. I think that's really super key. So I really would love for you to join us this week. See what you think. We do get a little bit woo for those of you. I'm just warning you. And would love to know what you think. Well, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today I have Rachael Webb. She is this amazing woman who helps and guides other women who are entrepreneurs and creatives and helps them find clarity and the courage to step into who they really are and own it. So thank you so much for joining me today, Rachael.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, let's start with that. I have the majority of my audience are female, and I would say the majority of them are badasses. But there's so many layers, when you're stepping into something that you fully and deeply desire in your life, what you want to create, whether it's something in your relationship or a job, or just maybe thinking about quitting your job and you're just like not sure where to turn, what to do, and finding that clarity. And once you have it, having the courage to step into something completely unknown and trying to push away the fear. So I would love to jam on that today.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes up for me anytime that anyone is wanting to find more clarity, because I feel like that clarity and courage, they're like two sides of the same coin, or they're actually kind of like the yin yang symbol, which is like neither yin nor yang. It's just continually morphing into itself over and over and over, the white and the black. And that, because if you want to have clarity, you're going to have courage. And if you want to have courage, you're going to have to be clear. So, and I really feel like cultivating this aspect of ourselves really has to start within. And it has to start with ourselves. And so really, turning our gaze away from the horizon, away from what other people are doing, away from what we feel our mission is, and really turning inwards and looking at, where am I clear in my own being and in the way that I relate to myself first and foremost? And where are the lines a little blurry? And how can I dial that lens and come into focus within my own being? And really it's like one of, when I received the name, because I was going through a business transformation, and I was just like, oh, I have to like change something. I feel so inauthentic about who I know I am and who is out there online. And so I really like channeled through this being, this essence, this entity of soul star medicine. And that's a whole different story in and of itself, but that awareness and that energy also came with a phrase that is really applicable to what we're talking about here. And it's that integrity is the stone upon which the blade of clarity is sharpened.
Wow, I've never heard that before. I love it.
And Yeah, I had never heard it before either. That just came down. And it's really true where it's like, if you want to be clear in your life, if you want to know what your next steps are in your business, in your relationship, in any decision you have to make, your body needs to be able to trust you, because you're going to go out on a limb if you're going to decide to stay in this relationship or leave this relationship or start a new business or launch a course or whatever. Your body needs to be on board with what you are going to do, and it needs to know that it can trust you. And so the clarity comes from being in integrity with your own boundaries with yourself. And so it's like, if you say that you're going to meditate every day for the next 21 days, and then you just let it slide, you're losing voltage in your solar plexus. And so, and then it's like, this is a whole rabbit hole we can go down into, which could be fun, but it's that, like, that's where it's like, so you just crossed a boundary with yourself. And I'm also not saying that it has to be your word is like, you like, because of course things come up, but it's in the same way that it's like, you and I are supposed to meet at a certain time today, and if something came up and I wasn't able to meet with you, I would communicate that to you as quickly as I could. And I would make another time to be like, oh, how about we do it Wednesday, or like, how about we do it next Wednesday, or whatever. But like, keeping your word with yourself, because that's where it gets the trickiest, is because you don't have anybody to answer to, you think, except for the entire consciousness of your body and all of your angels and all of your guides. They're all watching you.
Right.
No pressure. And so it's like having those clear boundaries with yourself first, really being in integrity with yourself first, and then allowing that to ripple out into, like, if I wasn't able to make it today, I wouldn't just be like, ghost you and not arrive, or, be like, hey, I can't make it today, and then leave you hanging and not know when we're going to reschedule. But we do that with people sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be clear, you want to have clarity about what you want to do, what decisions you need to make, I feel like first and foremost, you have to come into having some truth telling with yourself about where the lines are a little fuzzy for you in your life, and how you could bring more clarity to those engagements with others and with yourself. And because that is what pulls you in to your body. And then your body's like, sweet, you're sitting in the driver's seat. I know that I can trust you. I know that you'll say no to the things that are not in alignment with our end result. And I know that you'll say yes to the things that are. So I'm ready. I'm on board. Let's do this.
How do you know, though, if there were like two things and you're like, oh God, well, let's just pick two jobs or something, and you're like, I like them both, and they both offer such a laundry list of things, and you're not clear, or you're not clear as to, well, I really love these two ideas of starting a business, but I don't know which one to do. I mean, they're both really good. How do you get clear around that if you're feeling in your body that they both equally, or maybe not even equally, or maybe one is definitely more energetically aligned, but you're kind of maybe in your head about it. But how do you decide between two things that may be really good options?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So I think the first thing is to make sure that you are in a place where you are actually able to make a good decision. or make any decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means making sure that that you're not hungry, that you don't have to pee, and that you've had enough sleep.
Right, right, right.
Cover all of your physical, make sure, because this is a decision you're going to make with your body. So making sure that your body is actually has all of the resources that it needs to be able to give you the information that you're asking of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's the baseline. Make sure your body is on board and well resourced.
Right. Okay.
And it's like, I've actually done diagrams about, and had my students done diagrams about how they make decisions. And so for me, diagram is like little bubble. Am I well resourced? No. Go back to the start. Yes. Pass on.
Right.
So then, just coming into, I feel like it's really like, this idea, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no.
Right.
It's like, and really allowing yourself to set aside the reasons, to set aside the explanations that you tell yourself. And it's just like, if you feel your energy jump or move in any way when you consider that option, that is a mark in its favor. Maybe that's all you need. Maybe you're just like, woo, I just felt that in my body, and so I'm doing it. And I don't have to understand how I'll pay for it, how I'll ask for time off of work. I don't have to understand how am I going to find childcare, or if I can get someone to walk my dog. It's just like, or how I'm going to afford it. It's just like, just your body is like, yes, like part of your higher self recognizes another part of you on the other side of that job, that transformational experience, that workshop, retreat, that conversation with that person, whatever. And so you have this recognition of yourself from the future through the lens of that experience. And so there's a resonance with that.
And I think that there's a lot of us who, let's say we are trying to decide between two things. We break out the piece of paper and we're like, the pros and the cons,
Right.
Well, this one is look at all of these things that this place will offer. I mean, look at the opportunity. But that it just doesn't feel right. And you're like, I don't know why it doesn't feel right, but on paper, this job looks awesome.
Right.
And
well, yeah,
you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people base their decisions not from their body or their intuition or that, that gut feeling. They base it on pros and cons and make a decision from their mind, just intellectually, when it really should be more energetically. Is that what you mean?
Well, and we're not sure. Well, and I don't want to shit on anybody, right? It's like you have to go through making the decisions that were the things that made sense, that felt safe, that were, looked good on paper, that didn't resonate with your heart, so that you can learn. It's kind of like, my dog was a puppy and she would go to the bathroom inside. So I had to like rub her nose in it and be like, hey, like, don't do that, and go outside. And so sometimes life presents you with situations where you make decisions that are not coming from your heart, so that you can be like, oh, that, yep, got it. Okay.
I knew it. Mm-hmm. I knew it.
Ow. Okay. I'm done with the Indian rug burn, angels. Thank you.
Exactly.
And they're like, sweet. Now we don't have to do that again. But I think one thing I want to presence is that, because sometimes it's hard to know, right? You get in there and you're like, like you're trying to work it out. And it's like, if you ever feel like you're trying to, like, I call it Tetrising, if you've got that, because sometimes in the game of Tetris, that cube comes down and you're like, yes, I've been waiting for you. I know exactly you're going to go here and I'm going to get 3 rows. It's going to be awesome. And then that like L shape comes down and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I can turn it around here, or no, that's not, no, trying like, well, and then like, it's coming down to the wire. What am I going to do? Oh, okay, fine. I guess I'll do that. Like, okay, I just got like, I'll have to like work that out a little bit later because that, okay, you know?
Right.
So anytime when you have to get out those, and it's like, I also just want to say too, it's like our human minds want it to be like, is it yes or no? Please let my duality programming tell me what to do.
Exactly.
But it's not always like that. And sometimes it's a little more, so sometimes part of your feeling process and feeling if it's that hell yes or no is that you do write out the list. And then you're like, okay, cool. Now I can see everything.
Right.
And this definitely feels more resonant. But but the other side of that is that you keep trying to squeeze this square peg into the round hole. And you're like, well, maybe if you're looking at apartments and like, maybe if they can like put in a fan over the range, or maybe if we can ask them if they'll take our pets, or maybe if it's like, you're like, you've got this wooden block and you are trying to squeeze it and meld it into this round hole, but it's like you're spending all of your energy trying to squeeze it when in fact it's really a square peg.
Right.
Yeah. So I also there's one more part of this too, is that our solar plexus and our root chakra and our solar plexus even are oftentimes trying to navigate the decisions that we make because they are afraid. And, you're looking at those options and you're like, my heart says yes to this job, but I'm not going to make as much money. And this other one is going to pay really well, but it's not what I really want to do. And it's not to say that you should always go with the one that your heart says yes to. It's like you also want to feel empowered in the decisions that you make. So there's the whole like leap and the net will appear thing, and it's wonderful and works miracles. And it can also be taxing on your nervous system, and really like your adrenals are engaged and you're like, fuck, how's it gonna work out, right? So maybe for the sake of your nervous system, you do go with that job that is not what you want to do but will pay. But then you make an agreement where you say, I'm going to earn this much money, and so I can see that I need to make this much money in order to be able to get myself where I could actually do this other thing where I will feel more inspired in my heart space. And so I'm going to make a commitment to work for this job for 6 months, and then I will transition out of it. And that other opportunity might not be there anymore, but just knowing that it was there and that this is part of your path to committing to that or something like that or something better. And that part of your commitment to doing those 6 months will get you there eventually.
Right.
And then you cannot overstay. You cannot make an agreement with yourself to say, I will only stay here for 6 months and then I will take that leap and I'll get myself set up. You cannot stay a 7th month.
You're right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I've done this in the past as well. And let's say the money was very attractive and I was like, not feeling it so much, but right now this is the only thing. And I think I allowed myself to be there for a year, and I'm like, look, I could do anything for a year. Like, and me working at this thing that may not be like totally matched with what I want as my deepest desire, what it will do is, whatever it is, you want to pay off your debt, you want to plan your vacation, you have your wedding coming up, or you want to buy a car, and you're like, I'm getting this job, which it's not like 100% aligned, but it will bring in money and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And then I will get my European vacation paid for, or that car, or my wedding. And it serves as a purpose. I feel we then step into our own power by making a decision like that. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's worked.
Yeah.
It's worked for me, where I would say, oh, okay, 1 year and then I'm good. And then I'm good. And then at that time, whatever it is, whatever job that you really want, or you want to finally, or taking a job while you're, I don't know, opening up your own business. One is helping the other. It's not like the best job, but who cares? Because it's only serving as a purpose right now to actually get you to where you want to be, whenever that is, in 2 years from now, or whatever you decide you want it to be.
Right. It's like, this is what Carolyn Myss calls the sacred prostitute, where it's like, because you're prostituting yourself, where you're like, okay, and we're not going to prostituting. Okay, we're not going to work on judgments here. It's just, we're going to call what it is, what it is. Mm-hmm. And so it's because you're doing something that is not a hell yes, so that you can make something else happen. So you're prostituting yourself in order to be able to build your website, in order to be able to plan your vacation, but it has to be conscious.
Right.
Like that's why she's a sacred prostitute, as opposed to just, a prostitute, where it's like, that's unconscious prostitute. Right. And so that's where you have to make that boundary and that agreement. And you've got to be empowered in your finances and say, this is my budget. These are what my bills are. This is what my needs are, plus a little bit of a pillow. And this is the amount that I'm making in this salary. This is how long I will need to work there to get this on board and met. And so that is my limit. And then, because then once you once you start working that extra month after the 13th month or the 14th month, if your agreement is for a year, that is when you've violated the contract of the sacred prostitute, and now you're getting greedy, and it's like you're asking for more.
Right. And for those individuals who don't know what you're talking about, Carolyn Myss or the Sacred Prostitute, the archetypes, can you just talk about that for a second? Just explain that a little.
Yeah. So Carolyn Myss is an amazing woman, an author and a speaker. And I've spent a lot of time studying her, The Anatomy of a Spirit.
I love that book.
Which goes through all the chakras and talks about the different psychological, emotional, physical manifestations that those chakras can bring us as lessons, because they are all working in our favor to help us grow and evolve. And then she also goes through I actually am not remembering which book it is right now. It could be Sacred Contracts, that she goes through the different archetypes. And so then it's like, there's the child and there's the sacred prostitute. And that was just the one that jumped into my mind as a perfect example right now. But so there are these aspects, these archetypes that are walking with us, and in the same way as, like, say you're a Scorpio, it's like, or you're a better example, or not a better, but a different example that I know better is that you're a Pisces. And so it's like, Pisces can be super spiritual, and they can channel, and they can be so tapped in, and they can also be in their non-illuminated state. They can be addictive, they can be dissociative, they can be confused and scattered. And so these archetypes have their illuminated state and then their disempowered state. And so the sacred prostitute is here as an ally to make that transition from disempowerment to empowerment.
Yes. Another common archetype is the wounded healer, but there are many.
Yeah.
There are many, many different archetypes out there. But yes,
Mm.
Carolyn Meese, I love her. Anatomy of the Spirit. I've had that on my bookshelf for many years, and I refer to it pretty often just because I love chakra work.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I think that's great. I mean, feeling empowered around making a decision, you can, if you kind of want to do a list, but if there is like a goal or a deep desire, I think, you know, and you're like, okay, I'll give myself a year or however long and I'm going to earn this much, and I'm going to have this portion go into this account, and I'm going to save for X, Y, and Z. And then by that time, I'll be able to open up my own place or get married or get that apartment or buy that house or whatever it is. I think that's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to, women having the clarity around what they want, let's just say they don't have two choices to make about something. And they're like, I don't know. I'm in this job. It totally sucks. I hate every second of it. And do you help them get to another level of like, oh yeah, like what resonates? What really lights you up? How do you get women to know what that is?
Well, I feel like in my personal coaching work, I actually am clear on this boundary that I don't work with women who aren't clear about they're like, I don't know exactly what it is, because I know one of my main strengths is that, I'm a maximizer. So it's like I really work well with people who know they have some kind of like, okay, I have this vision, but I don't know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, awesome, let's work on that. But if it's like, I know that that's my zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that I don't have things to say about how like ideas about how to get there, but that's not where I really shine in that space and in my work with people. But what I will say is like when you're in a space where you're in this job and it just doesn't feel good, and it's like you're just getting up and going in day to day, and it's like you've got to kind of get yourself out of the fog a bit, and it's like you have to have some really honest conversations with yourself about what lights you up, what turns you on, what is it that's in your life that might not be in this job but is something else. It's like, what is the thing that you find yourself having conversations about, whether it's at work, maybe you're at work and you find yourself almost coaching someone, or it's like you find yourself trying to empower people, or you're trying to talk to them about their home decorating, and it's just like you love going and like looking on Pinterest and finding those things that are like make you feel so yummy in your home. It's like there is something that you do, some conversation that you have unconsciously at this point over and over, that is really what is seeking to express through you, what you are seeking to create or achieve. So, having those real honest conversations with yourself, and really you might not know it in the beginning, but it's kind of like you kind of set the settings of your internal metal detector to, now that you have this idea of what are those conversations that I'm having over and over and over with people that are all about the same thing in different ways, because that's what I'm passionate about. You set that setting, and then you walk through your life now with that lens of looking for that. So that then when you get into that conversation, then all of a sudden your setting goes off and you're like, this is one of those things.
And sometimes you don't even recognize it because it's something that you're so good at that it doesn't even feel like you don't even sometimes recognize like, oh my God, that's right. I really am so good at, organizing, or I don't know, decorating. I'm so good at knowing what goes where, but it totally comes natural to me, but you don't really realize it until maybe someone else points it out for you.
Right. And it could be that you think you're not doing anything. Maybe, your gift is that you're a really good listener.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you're really good at holding space for people.
Right.
And it's like, there are people out there who pay, their therapist thousands and thousands of dollars just to listen to them, right? Like, the therapist doesn't tell them to do anything. It's just like, they're just there to listen to you so that you can hear your own self talk and then receive the wisdom. And it's just like, it might not look like anything to you, but you do it over and over, and people will thank you for it. People will highlight that you do it for them. And sometimes we're not able to receive those compliments, so then we deflect them. So then that's when your metal detector isn't set to that setting.
Mm-hmm.
So you set this intention of, I am going to become the observer in my life. I'm going to become the detective of my life. And I'm going to listen and discover and watch for what are those things that I just do and give freely and love doing for people, and that people thank me for, and that people compliment me on. And I am going to learn from viewing my own self what those things are and start making a list.
Yes. Yes. And I love that because, we all have a gift, and we all can, do you feel like everyone has a gift, but not everyone recognizes what their gifts are. And
yes.
Right. But do you feel that everyone's gift is how they earn their money?
Excellent question. No, because there are plenty of people who are not doing their gift, and that's how they're earning money, and they don't feel really great about it.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I think that most people, I don't know. There's, I don't know, 6, maybe verging on 7 billion of us here at this point. I don't know everybody's experience, but I have a hunch that when you are sharing your gifts, that's when you feel most of service, and that it feels really good when you're sharing your energy to receive energy for that. And that could look like being paid cash. That could look like having people invite you to stay in their homes, and then they happen to have a chef, and then you come and you offer your gifts, and then you're receiving the ability to travel, you're receiving living somewhere, you're receiving being fed. It's like there's different exchanges that happen, and some people, it's like it's like you can say in their past lives they were so they had some kind of arrangement where it's like now in this lifetime, their dharma is that they're of service and they just give and they're taken care of. It's like Mother Teresa or Gandhi. It's like they received energy in an exchange that was different from meeting survival needs. So they weren't met by, receiving money or receiving food or shelter, but they were met with so much other energy.
Right.
So, but there's, it's a law of equal exchange. And, but we as humans have to let go of our judgments of what that exchange looks like. But I do believe that when you are sharing your gifts that are the innate talents that you have, that are the things that just come easily for you, you are just like, yes, like who can I get my hands on next to be of service to? And that there is an exchange that happens there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good. So we were talking a little bit before we went live about managing your energy and social media. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that. And because you have something called the energetics of Instagram. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, the energetics of Instagram is a bit different than what you were just talking about. Because really, it's like the energetics of Instagram is the name of the course, but it's also a thing that we've all experienced on Instagram. Mostly, I feel, because Instagram has a bit of a different frequency than Facebook or Snapchat or other things. Um, and that it's almost kind of like there are these angels out on Instagram that are just like, we think you'd like this. How about you? What about this? Like I think that you should write this hashtag. And then you're like, wow, I've never written that hashtag before. I wonder who else is using that hashtag. And then you look at that hashtag and you're like, ooh, this person looks interesting. And then you follow them. And it's like these wormholes.
It is. I have, that is, yes. I experience this almost every time I'm on Instagram. If someone puts something up and they're like, oh, I just attended something with so-and-so. She's so fantastic. And I'm like, oh, who is this so-and-so? Because you can just click on their name if they have the little @ symbol. And I'm like, oh, who is that? And I click on it and I'm like, well, and it brings you into like this whole new world of someone else's life. And then if you follow them, then you get like people similar to them. And you're like, and so I go through those people and I'm like, huh. And then if something catches my eye, I'll click on it. And then it brings me into deeper rabbit holes. So is that what you're talking about? Because this happens to me almost every day.
Yes. Yeah, that's totally what I'm talking about. And so in the Energetics of Instagram course, we talk about how to become conscious of these things, because most of the time we're just like, oh, that's funny, that was a synchronicity. And it's not like, oh, like there's actually like a network behind here. Like they call it social networking, because it's a network. Like you can think of it in the same way as you think of your nervous system with your synapses or fractals or wormholes into other star systems. It's like it's this way that energy moves throughout our consciousness, because it's like, really, anytime I'm curious, like Google image search is one of the most amazing ways to tap into the collective unconscious. And Instagram is similar to that. And so you can just like find so many different things. And so, but you're not really, most people are not really aware. They just think, oh, like, then suddenly they've been going through this rabbit hole, and then suddenly it's 30 minutes later and they're like, oh no, now I have to go pick up my kids from school.
Yeah, totally.
And they're not present to what just happened and how it happened. And so the Energetics of Instagram course is, first of all, presencing that this is a thing and becoming aware of how the energy works through these different wormholes and avenues and synapses, and then coming into creatorship with that, where it's like, okay, now that I understand how, I went to here and then I went to there, and then like you can kind of retrace your steps, then you could figure out how would it work if you can kind of like compartmentalize yourself, and you consider yourself as the person who has now been on their phone for 30 minutes and is like, whoop, look, where did the time go? And then you backtrack your steps to the you who was the person who made the post. And so then it's really very energetic. And so then you get to the place where you're like, okay, so if I want to connect with that person or those people, how would I go about doing it? What are the steps that I just followed that allowed me to get to that place? So then instead of just like following down the rabbit hole, you begin taking the information that you learned from the different steps that you went on that journey, and then you begin consciously crafting that journey for someone else.
Got
And
it.
so so really, and the way that you, because there's so much energy that is transferred through images. And so, and really it's like, if you want to, Instagram is actually such a great biofeedback tool, because if you can manage to get out of your head and feel your body as you are going through Instagram, you'll feel energetic surges within your body as you are scrolling. And that, it's like when you feel that energetic surge, then you're like, ooh, I just felt some resonance there. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to follow here, and then I'm going to engage here. And what prompts those energetic voltages, those little energetic surges that happen, is when someone else shares their energy. So it's like, you can't really, for example, one of my clients had a yoga studio, and I knew her. And I was, she signed up for the course, and I was like, okay, awesome. I'm going to go on this journey with you. And I'm scrolling through her Instagram, and I'm like, where are you? Like, I see tons of photos of the studio and the teachers and the community and the building, but I don't see her. And it's like, as humans, it's like we invest in what we care about. And so I might love that yoga studio. I might go to that yoga studio, but the only way that I'm going to actually want to plug in to that yoga studio is if I know the person personally, or if that person has shared themselves vulnerably and authentically on Instagram, so that I feel like I know them and I know their story. I know the creation myth behind the creation of this studio. I know like her passion for it. I know her journey with it now. And it's just like, it's like you can put up as many pretty pictures as you want, but it's those posts and those photos that have the emotional glue of vulnerability that allow another human being's emotional system to recognize and then engage.
Yes. I definitely agree with the whole vulnerability piece and how people will connect with that, because when I think I share a lot personally on Instagram, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I share things on my podcast, personal things, and also on Instagram. And I don't always forward it to Facebook, because you can have them linked, and I really don't. It's like Instagram is my favorite place to be, and if it doesn't, I don't always put it in other places. So when there's personal stuff, it doesn't always get forwarded to Facebook. Anyway, I find that I get the most likes when I'm being really super authentic and not just like, here's a quote and that's it. If I'm speaking truly from the heart and dealing with something that's going on in my life, people really resonate with that. So I've definitely noticed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the energetics of Instagram is that one thing. And so, but then what has, as you, and this is it's something that I navigate in my own life, and that we're all being really like, I don't want to say forced, but invited to consider for ourselves, because once you know how the energetics of Instagram work, then you want to use it, and so you want to be on there, and you want to be creating that community, because really that's what sharing yourself vulnerably. The reason why behind that is that you want to call your community around you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have those people who resonate, who it's like they're like, yes, or those people who are like, you know what, I don't think so. Like, let's have a conversation. You're like, oh yes, stimulating conversation. Let's go.
Right.
So, but you want to create that community. It's like that. The purpose, the main crux of the energetics of Instagram as a course is to create a safe container so that people feel like they are held and able and supported to step into that vulnerability so that then their true light can be seen by the people around them, and they can magnetize to them the perfect friends, the perfect people for collaborations, the perfect clients, the perfect customers, the people who are going to be their next coach or their mentor, or it's just like to magnetize all of the people that you are meant to work with and serve, so that we can support one another.
Yeah.
Now then, so what happens in that is that you're on your phone more, and um, and then you are, and through the new algorithm, it's like you're more likely to be seen. It's not just about posting, it's more about your engagement. And so then it's like you've got to be engaging and commenting and liking, and in addition to posting, and that is what keeps you on your phone more, which is what keeps you in the app more, which is what keeps you exposed to the ads more. So there is this, it's like, it is this wonderful, beautiful space for connection. And like anything, you can overdo it.
Yeah.
And so
Totally.
really having those boundaries, because again, it's all energy. So, one of the first places where we can lose energy and become scattered and not have that clarity or that confidence for what is the next best decision that I'm going to make that is going to move me forward on my path, is if you wake up in the morning and you're in your bed, which is you're lying down. So we're interpreting all this from a symbolic level. So it's like you're lying down, which means you're not standing up, which means you're more vulnerable. You're most likely naked or in your pajamas, and you're in your most vulnerable state, right? Where it's like, you hear stories about like, and they just came in and she was in her bed, and it's like, that's this most vulnerable place. And so when you get up in the morning and you reach for your phone, and then you either check your email or you get on Instagram, and it's like, basically you just invited the entire world to get in bed with you, and you're not able.
Right.
Like, yes, you can moderate who you follow. And so it's like, you're like, okay, I only want to follow people who are posting positive stuff. But now it's like, maybe someone's having a bad day. And so they're like, and I encourage people to share the dark moments and the nasty stuff and the mess of it all. But it's like, I'm not okay with receiving that if I'm naked in my bed, like if I haven't had breakfast yet. So
Right.
it's like making sure that you're upright, that you have taken care of yourself, that you have put on some clothes, that you have fed yourself something. Even if you're not hungry in the morning, like have like the symbolic act of feeding yourself 4 almonds before you open up your phone tells your nervous system, I've got you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't actually even touch my phone for the first 2 hours at all. Actually I don't start checking email until at least 10 a.m. And if I wake up at 6:30 in the morning, there's no way I'm touching my phone. It's like really, my mornings are it's sacred time for me. And it's a time that I journal, I pray. I'm sitting in my altar space. It's very intentional. It's very quiet. It's very soothing for me. And so that's how I start every single day. And for me to sort of like bust in and like, because you start opening up emails and there's like fires you have to start putting out potentially, right? And that I just don't allow into like, God, it's just, it's really like 4 hours into my morning, because then I come downstairs, I make breakfast, I'll actually do some inspirational reading. Like that's what I allow in. And then when I'm fed, showered, dressed, and all of those things, then or maybe I'll go to the gym in the morning, and then I'll come home and I'll shower, change, and then that's when I start my work day. So my work day really doesn't start until 8:30, unless I'm working urgent care, and then it starts at 8 a.m. But I don't check email until I get to work and there's a little bit of downtime in the morning. That's when I'm checking it. I don't check it right off the bat. No, it like affects my nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same thing as, because, getting up, nourishing yourself, taking a shower, whatever it is that you need to do to feel like, okay, I'm ready to start my day now. And whether that's picking up your phone or taking it off airplane mode or whatever, it's like, that is when you are like, you're ready, because it's like, if you don't have your phone away from you or on airplane mode, and then suddenly it's like you just grab it and you're like, what time is it? And then you just look and you're like, oh, and you see
Right.
all of those notifications, and it's like, whoa, your nervous system just had the experience of you going into battle in your bathrobe.
Exactly.
And it's like you're out there like waving your sword in your email inbox, like, yeah, I'm going to take care of all this stuff. It's like, no, you're going to get shot by 5 arrows right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's so important to have those. And this is just like boundaries in your whole life. It's like someone can text you and be like, hey, I'm texting with this other person right now, and we're looking at this new retreat center that maybe we're going to have a retreat at, or we're looking at creating like these images for our website or whatever. And it's like, I'm on the phone with them right now. Do you have a weigh-in on this? And it's like, you could be like, okay, so I'm looking at this stuff. I don't really like it. We could do this, we could do that. Or you could be like, and that's a choice. Like it needs to be a conscious choice. Or you could look at it and be like, I'm in the middle of something right now. I need to eat. And so let me get back to you in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's like one of my teachers said one time, it takes 2 people to make an emergency.
Exactly.
Emergencies, and this, emergencies are not things that happen on their own. It's not, it's like you could come into the room and be like, Rachel, the room is on fire. Oh my God, we have to grab all your stuff, get your computer, we have to go. And I could be like, oh my God. I'd be like, okay, let's go. Or I could be like, I don't actually smell fire. I think that I am going to stay doing what I'm doing, and you can have whatever experience you're having. And if I start to smell smoke, then, yes, I will make arrangements for my day. But it's, it's like this, emergencies are not things that are entities in and of themselves. It's like there's something that created by an agreement between you and someone else.
Right. Oh, so good. So we're coming down to the last little bit here of our call today. Is there any last things that you wanted to add? Anything about courage for women? How to just stepping in, stepping up?
Yeah. Okay. So you guys ready? You listening?
Yeah.
Make sure you, exactly as you are right now, in exactly the place that you are on your journey, is medicine for someone else. You do not have to wait until you get it all figured out, because that will never happen. You are perfect in all of your mess, in all of your uncertainty, and in all of your imperfection right now. It does not serve anyone for you to wait until you are healed, until you have made X amount of money, until you have your website done, until you have your photos done. It does a disservice to you and to everyone that you are meant to help by you withholding your wisdom until X, Y, or Z. You cannot be sitting at the top of the tower having it all figured out. Number one, because the top of the tower is never where you think it is. But you cannot be sitting at the top of the tower being like, hey guys, I'm up here. I don't know where the rope is, but you should come. You know, it's like I have probably deleted 10 Instagram photos in the last 3 years. And it's like I intentionally, and I've been, it's like I've been an acupuncturist, I've been a distance healer, I've been a coach, I'm a sound healer, I'm a shaman. It's like I've been all of these things that some people would feel like, oh, well, now that I've transformed into this butterfly, I need to cover up all of the evidence that I was ever a caterpillar. No. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Because that is pulling up the rope, and you're not showing someone else who is lost and confused that moment where you are. Maybe it is you right now. You are lost and confused, and you are still trudging ahead. And by you saying, hey, you know what? I'm lost and confused, but I'm still trudging ahead. That gives them, that is you putting your hands together in an offering for them to put their foot in. And that is how we all climb this mountain together. Mm. And so you have to, part of the vulnerability is being able to own and integrate all of the mess, all of the failures, and all of the imperfections of where you have been and where you are right now. And by being able to leave that trail of breadcrumbs so that other people can find them and say, oh my God, her Instagram post is exactly how I'm feeling right now. And she looks like she has some shit figured out. But she's talking about exactly how broken and lost I feel right now. And if she can do it, I know I can do it too.
Yes. Definitely. I love that. Thank you so much. And so I also do some quick fire 3 questions at the end.
Oh, good.
Let's see. So first one is, what is one of your guilty pleasures?
One of my guilty pleasures is totally standing in the kitchen and eating anything, like standing in the kitchen and eating chips and hummus while I check my Instagram. That's where it's like, oh, I know, I'm not supposed to do that. Okay, fine.
What is currently at your bedside?
My dream journal.
Okay.
My dream journal and a piece of Tektite, 3 pieces of celestite, a bottle of geranium oil, and a gardenia. What else is up there? A candle, a pen. My 5-minute journal is downstairs because I brought it downstairs from being upstairs to write my morning gratitudes and focuses in. but that's usually up there.
And what do you use your geranium oil for?
So, geranium oil is really amazing for women or for anybody in general. If you take, and it's good to use a little bit of a carrier oil first, but you put 1 or 2 drops on the arch of your foot before you go to bed. And then because geranium oil has a pretty strong scent, I don't like to rub it in with my hands. I just use my other foot to kind of like rub them together. And then you hold your feet together like that for 30 seconds to a minute so that the geranium oil is on the arch of your foot. And then you go to bed. And geranium oil really helps with nourishing any type of earth imbalance, as you would say in Chinese medicine. So that is any type of addictive behaviors, whether that is food or sex or alcohol or drugs or emotionally creating situations where you deal with this emotional situation in your relationship instead of working on your website. Because all of those things is like we have this hole that we're trying to fill. And so geranium oil on the arch of your foot before bedtime really helps to soothe that earth imbalance. It also helps to regulate your cycle if you're a woman.
Great, great. And what do you wear to bed?
My underwear. That's it.
That's it. Panties, that's all. All right, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Rachael, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and I love what you're doing for women and your gifts as a healer as well. You just do so many amazing things, and I'm really happy that our paths have crossed thanks to social media. And I definitely would love to just stay in touch and stay connected, and on Instagram.
Yes, please.
And so how can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I am Soul Star Medicine, SOUL, like your soul, star medicine. It's also your 8th chakra, your soul star chakra, which holds your purpose. And so I'm Soul Star Medicine on Instagram, soulstarmedicine.com. And I'm on Facebook, Soul Star Medicine. Really, the best place is Instagram. I feel like that is the best place to find me. And I also want to give a little announcement that I just released an album of me singing light language.
No way.
Yeah. So I was not a singer. That was probably the most terrifying thing I could think of before I moved to Maui. And I moved to Maui a bit of a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. And I knew that I was called here to connect this land because this land held parts of myself that I was meant to retrieve. And so one of those things was my voice and my ability to channel through extraterrestrial, which is, I think, really intraterrestrial, because we are from the stars, light language that vibrates to the resonance of other hidden gifts and hidden insights, healing abilities, innovations, inventions that we are meant to bring forth in this time. So it's my intention in sharing this album and these tones for other people to, I'm like, I know you guys have got it in there. I'm going to sing it out of you.
And
I'm going to call to you.
Is it on your website?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so if you go to soulstarmedicine.com, there's an announcement banner up at the top, and then it's also one of the things when you scroll down right in the first, it's called Remembering Lemuria.
Oh, very cool. I have to check it out. Yeah. And do you
Yes.
want to explain
So,
what
because it's,
light language is? It's very, I've heard it before. When I've worked with like angel guides, like live sound healing sessions, I've had someone um, speak in light language. And so, do you want to explain what that is for people who don't know what that is?
yeah, yeah. So, um, you are so much older than you think. And there is a language. And I want you to really loosen your idea of what you think language is. There is a system of information that is encoded into your bones, into your cellular structure, into your DNA. You know, we talk about that we're only using 10% of our brains. There's like,
Right.
we only know what 3% of our DNA does. So the rest of your brain and the rest of your DNA is they're almost kind of like there are these strands of light within you that have been unplugged. And so the directions for how to plug back in to access more of your brain, to access more of your DNA, is to release these codes of light that are woven into your genetic structure that are multidimensional.
Mm.
And so light language operates, is heard, whether it's toning. I feel like that even it's, playing crystal singing bowls is the same frequency as the language of light. It vibrates that release of that information that is embedded into you so that it calls that, vibrates it out to a place where you can access it more. So if you've ever been to a sound healing or walked on a particular place in the earth, or even like had someone speak to you and it's not even what they said, but it's just how they said it or the tone that they used, and you got goosebumps,
Right.
that was your body. Your cellular structure is actually designed to vibrate at the recognition of truth. And
Mm.
so when you hear that truth, whether it's words that are light language or sounds, or you're in a particular place, it's light language is one of the ways in which those codes are called to the surface of your being, and they vibrate out and they come to the surface as goosebumps.
Mm.
And so there's part of you that remembers a deeper aspect of yourself whenever that happens.
Interesting. So cool.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a if you go to Soul Star Medicine, there you can follow the link that is there that says Remembering Lemuria, the album is here, or you can just go to soulstarmedicine.com/remember. Um, and you can listen to, there's a 2-minute preview of the album, and you can listen to it. And I just love hearing people's feedback because they're just like, oh my gosh, so many things have started to get activated in me just even hearing it. And
Ooh,
there's
I
some
have to
really
listen.
powerful things that are coming through.
Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, congrats. Congrats on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, Rachel, it has been such a honor to have you on, and let's stay connected. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Margaret. And thank you, everyone who is listening to this, because we didn't tell you this, but at the beginning, before we press record, we called all of you in here. And so we've been sitting with all of you in this circle as we've been having this conversation. And thank you so much for contributing your energy and for calling out of us the exact words that you needed to hear. And it is just such a blessing and an honor and a privilege to be able to connect with you, Margaret, and to connect with all of your community and everyone who will ever hear this. So, so grateful to you all. And Margaret, thank you so much for navigating our adventure, our journey that we just went on.
Yes.
And yes, so looking forward to staying connected and seeing what evolves from this collaboration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Rachael. To learn more about her and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 41. Thank you so much for being with us this week. I will speak to you next week. Much love, big hugs, and speak to you then.